There are a handful of what I call prominent movie star dogs. These dogs either played a role in a TV show or a movie. Most of these have passed away, with time. Now, I'm going to include two that weren't really movie star dogs, Gidget and Laika. Now, there's dogs like, Old Yeller, Rin Tin Tin, Lassie, Mr. Ed was a horse, but anyway, I'll include Mr. Ed here because I include him in these YouTube videos. Now, I need to get the name of some of these so you can watch them. Now, they just started popping up here on my YouTube feed, so I started watching them. Now, let me get to Gidget. Gidget was that Taco Bell dog, the Chihuahua. I had no idea that was her name, but apparently that was her name, and apparently she's passed away. So, yeah, anyway, let me get to Laika. Now, Laika was the name of that Russian dog. Well, let me get to the early day, before space exploration, when back in the horse and buggy days, people believed that at one time people believed that if you went more than 40 miles an hour, the body just couldn't take it. The forces of the acceleration going that fast would kill somebody. Of course, early on they figured out that wasn't true. Then later, that they started sending missiles up. They said, well, if we put a person in there, the G forces of sending, getting somebody that fast is going to kill them. So, well, first they sent up dogs. The Russians started doing this back in the mid 1950s. Now, Leica was an early dog. Now, one thing, another thought that if you go through the Van Allen belt, the Van Allen belt was named for a guy named Van Allen. They figured that if you're just going up, you go through it real quick, and then you're going back down, you go through it real quick, so you're not in that that radioactive layer long enough to hurt you. But that was a thought early on. So they set up dogs. One thing a lot of people don't realize that the early Russian dogs, well, they was worried about if they would survive the launch and travel in space, but they weren't so worried about getting them back down safely. So poor Laika burned up and went up upon reentry. And then after a little bit, they said, well, look, we're going to start sending people up there. We need to have some way to safely return them back to Earth. And of course, they kind of figured that out. But poor Laika, gave her life for science, as one would say, or for the, for Laika gave her life for science exploration, and I give a big old salute to Laika and the early pioneer dogs of space exploration, along with the handful of various cosmonaut and astronaut crews that gave their life for science. I give a salute to all the men and women that paid the ultimate price doing it. Now, we get to, like I said, eventually they figured out that, we couldn't. That was, I'm going to include this just because I want to. Now, there was this guy that I don't know if you call this guy a thrill seeker, some guy that was really dedicated to science and engineering, or quite how you'd categorize him. But this one of those guys. They did this, when I got up at Edwards, where they do the testing on the aircraft and stuff. I mean, besides Area 51, they do a lot of science and engineering and stuff up in that area. But anyway, this guy would strap himself to a rocket sled, and I think he got up to around 20 G's of acceleration. And this guy would, like the retinas would detach from his eyes. His kidneys would burst. So he'd spend a week or so in the hospital where he'd pee blood. And at a certain point, I don't know if it was this guy or I think it was some of the team that was working with him that said, "Look, we pushed this to the point where we can work with 20G acceleration. We don't need to escape the Earth's atmosphere. That's way too fast." And at a certain point, they just put a stop to it and said, "Look, these are just getting way too extreme." I don't remember the guy's name. You could look it up. This guy, he's probably dead by now because they did these tests back. I don't think he died from the test. I think he just died from old age. But at a certain point, they said, "Hey, this is going far enough. We've done all the tests we need to." But anyway, I give a big old salute to Laika and all the animals and people that gave their life for science. Okay, ciao for that for Laika. Das Vistanya, chick, or Das Vistanya, pooch.